So I want to practice drawing a shoe, and even though this is a Nike Air Force, it could be the general idea of most shoes that I'm trying to cover. So I always just kind of adjust as I go. I want to get the angle of the sole of the shoe correct and then the outside shape correct. And I'm looking at slopes and heights and widths and where does it start getting thin towards the toe. And I have this slope much too steep and it doesn't really bend like I had. So I'm going to adjust that as I go. And then I want to look at first once I get the outside shape close-ish to what I think, I want to get the thickness of the sole correct because that helps me get the width of everything else correct. And so I'm looking at that back heel part, the inside, and then the front of the, I guess I should say the top part where the tongue area is, that width as close as I can. And now this shape, the top of the shoe, the front top where my toes would go, always I struggle with getting that correct. So I just adjust and adjust, and I'm looking at the curves and the angles, and then I'm going to make adjustments as I go, and I'm going to go back down and kind of fix the sole of the shoe as I look at it. Now, one thing that that helps with this shoe is that there's sewn sections, and so I really want to look at like the angle of each of those sections and the width correct. And I'm noticing that sole went a little bit thick at the front, and I'll fix that back and forth again. And so getting these angles really is just tricky, and really what I have found helps the best is to get to this point and then walk away for about a minute to 5 minutes, and then come back with fresh eyes and hold up my paper to the screen that I was looking at the time and fix anything that pops out at me. Now, one thing that I do know that I didn't catch until, of course, I finished with this sketch is that the back part where the tongue is, where the heel is a little bit tall compared to the image or the actual shoe. And so I didn't walk away for the 5 minutes, but this is just a sketch and I'm okay with that. Getting the angles can be tricky, but that's just a really good rule of thumb. And one thing that helps in this area is just the negative space between the tongue and the back heel on the top of the shoe. If you can get that negative space close, you should be good. Now, shoelaces, it's really important to look at the shoelaces as their own object. People get overwhelmed because there's so many shoelaces, but if you'll just take a minute and look at each lace as a shape and separate it that it's actually lace on a shoe, that helps. Now, one thing I should have done is drawn the holes for the shoelaces first, just gone down and jot them correctly in proportion. I was lucky that it ended up working out okay, but a lot of times it doesn't. I was just so into drawing these shoelaces, I forgot to do that. So I did notice that the holes kind of go back and forth, and that's not the same for every shoe. So make sure you're looking at those kind of things, and also looking at like your negative space in between each lace compared to its neighboring lace helps as well to know if you're getting those proportions correct. And of course, the shoelaces closest to us are going to be bigger, and as they get to the left side and off to the side of the shoe that we can't see, it is going to get smaller. And now I'm just jetting in little details. I've darkened up my lines. I've fixed any angles that I thought didn't work, and I stopped there. You can go in and add some values and shading, but I'm pretty happy with it, other than it just ended up a little bit tall. It looks more like the Air Force high top maybe, but we're going to give me a free pass with that.